Parshas Tisa, so much of it is focused on the golden calf. It's so difficult to understand. "40 days after national revelation, 40 days after every single Jew experiencing prophecy, which came after the whole experience of the plagues, the splitting of the sea. They create a golden calf, they bow down to it, and they declare, this is your God who took you out of Egypt. How is that possible? How is that possible? This newborn golden calf took you out of Egypt. Idolatry. These are prophets. When going across the split sea, the miracles were so clear. They said, Zeh Keli Vanveu. They pointed as if to say. It was so clear this was the work of Hashem. No, this calf that didn't exist before, this took us out of Egypt. We're obviously missing a lot. But one thing's clear. What's clear is that when we ask such a question, we're ignoring basic human tendencies. And perhaps the greatest struggle we have as Jews what does Hashem look like? Hashem doesn't look like anything. Where is he? The angels don't know. All we have of him is his wisdom. All we know is that it's got to be true. That there is no logical alternative. His behavior, he describes himself in the Torah as one thing, and in real life we struggle to understand. He's all good and all giving. And it takes a lot of work to be able to see that in real life when the world is so filled with suffering. It takes a lot of work to understand that we only attain greatness through pain, through struggle. It's certainly not the way most human beings want to think. Everything about our emunah is based on profound wisdom. I'm thinking in ways that there's so much resistance within us. We know Hashem's there. You can see Him if you use your brains, if you think He's got His fingerprints on everything. On nature, on history, inside every one of us. But for real, for that, you got to use your brains. Human beings don't like using their brains. We want to see. We want to experience. It's so much easier to bow down to this golden cow than develop a relationship with what we know is true but can't touch. This has been the struggle. Where the alternative is paganism, or the alternative is atheism. It's all coming from the same place. What Judaism requires of the Jew is to use his brains, identify with what he knows is true and right. This has always been the struggle. Nothing's changed. The changes are superficial. The issues, same basic idea, different form. But that's the greatness of Judaism. We understand the challenge of life is use that brain. Use that brain. Know that what the brain tells you is reality. Our experiences, if you analyze them, it's there. If you just want to feel them. If all you want to do is experience life on a superficial level, and stop thinking. You'll obviously come to different conclusions. The struggle is using your brain. Knowing that what logic dictates, what common sense tells you, that's reality. What deep thinking tells you, that's real. The superficial, that which our instincts relate to so well, feels so real. There's nothing to it. It's empty. That's the struggle. Do you live with your intelligence? Or do you fall for the superficial? Every alternative humanity has come up with to Hashem makes about as much sense as a golden calf. Let's be honest. But it's so tempting. It's so taxing to live by your brain. Talmud Torah, Keneged Kulam, the greatest mitzvah is Torah study. What does that mean? The greatest mitzvah is getting your logic right. It's straightening out your brain. It's knowing reality as it is. That's the essence of Judaism. Don't be fooled, don't be tempted. Use your brains. And it's got to be so real that the God we know of through our brain, we learn to love. We develop a relationship with that which we can never see. But our brains show us He's there and everywhere and intimately involved in our lives, although you got to use your brains to see that. This is the challenge. Man was created for the sake of choosing sanity over instinct. And we were entrusted with bringing that to the world, to teach that to mankind. After generations of degeneration. It was Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov that taught us this. And we became the family ultimately with the revelation at Sinai. That was given Torah. It was given divine wisdom. For the sake of being a light unto humanity. And 40 days later, we are bound down to this golden calf. Let me tell you, if they struggled, don't feel so bad when you struggle. They experienced the revelation. And nevertheless, were overcome by that need for something that they can see, they can get their hands on. It's no secret that we're tempted. But you got to remember, whatever it is, it's nothing other than a golden calf. And you got to stand up again, pick up the pieces, and remember, all you got to do is use your brains. All you got to do is think. That's what Judaism is. In this week's Haftorah, that we don't get to read too often, it's a leap year. Eliyahu Hanavi has to prove it to the Jews that were believers, that were observant. They had one issue. They just needed to bow down to these idols. Come on, these were believing Jews. These were observant Jews. They were poseach al shtei asibim. They went to the Beis HaMikdash, and they also bowed down to these idols. What do they need him for? It's so hard to live with everything in your mind, and that your emotions have to develop on the basis of intellect. It's so much easier to bow down to this stone. It's not so much in style anymore. We look at them as a bunch of primitive fools. We've got our own idols. We've got our own temptations. We may be more sophisticated. We're certainly not more intelligent. Noach used to say, the battle for life is the battle for sanity. That's what it is. That's what it is. We're fighting our natural tendency to do the insane. The one thing the human being avoids above everything else is thinking. Thinking. Using our brains. If you want to be successful, the first thing you got to know is what you're up against. This parsha is what we're up against. There's the revelation and there's the golden calf. And we are constantly choosing between the two. We got to get sane. We got to get humanity sane. Feels like humanity is more insane than ever before. I wonder. Just new forms of it. Once again, it's a more sophisticated society, a more sophisticated insanity. But this was always the battle. And ultimately, we got to win.